Hi, we are Fabian Flores, Álvaro Chacón, Hilary Navarro, and Michelle Redondo. Today, we are going to talk about wishes and regrets related to different circumstances.
Good morning, everyone. Today, as a part of the panel, If Only What Might Have Been, I will talk about specifically education and career paths, one of the areas in life where people experience the most wishes and also regrets. Because, well, with this, education is, for me, one of the most important decisions we make for example, at a very young age, we are expected to choose a career that will shape our entire future. And because of this, many adults later say, for example, I wish I had chosen a different major, or for example, if only I had taken my education more seriously. Because the reason of this is because many students choose their career based on pressure, money, or social expectation could be. Um, and if they had followed their truly interest, they would have felt more motivated and they would have enjoyed their professional life more. Sorry, the professional lives more. For example, someone might say, I wish I had studied something I was passionate about. If they had made, sorry, if they had made that choice, they wouldn't feel stuck in a job that they don't enjoy today. And another common regret with this is that the people um not developing important skills early in life. Because, for example, people often say, "I wish I have learned English either early, sorry, or if only I had developed digital skills when I was younger." Because if they had prepared themselves better, they would have more opportunities, sorry, more job opportunities, and they would be more competitive in today's global market. With this, education systems also play a role because if schools have offered better career guidance, for example, students would have made more informed decisions. But also, if universities have focused more on practical skills, graduates or maybe juniors would transition more easy into the workforce. But were these regrets avoidable, for example? Well, for me, in some cases, sorry, yes, because if students have received more support and information, they would have chosen differently, maybe. But however, at 17 or 18 years old, most people don't fully understand who they really are or maybe what they really want to their lives. So yeah, and if we were expect to make perfect decision at that age, we would feel overwhelming pressure. So the really question is, for me, are wishes useful? Well, for me, wishes can be powerful. If someone says, for example, I wish I had studied something different, that reflection can maybe motivate them to change careers, go back to school, or continue learning, or do something different. But however, if people only think that, and if only say like, if only think if only things had been different, but do nothing, they would remain instead stuck, sorry, in regret instead to moving forward. So yeah. So for me, in conclusion, education and career paths are deeply connected to wishes and regrets. If we had made different choices in the past, our present would probably look very different. But if we learn from our regrets, we would be able to build a better future because education doesn't end and our career paths can still change. So yeah, that is my opinion with this.
First of all, there have been multiple cultural or historical events which have transformed society's fate completely, making us question a future with different outcomes. A giant variety of events through history have been either regrettable or desirable from several points of view, illustrating a contrast between wishes and regrets in society. There are various examples of such situations. Slavery and discrimination have always existed and changed human relationships around the world. If only people had more respect for others, no matter the circumstances, humanity would be more mature and emphatic. The colonization of America transformed the development of indigenous cultures. If the Spanish people had not dominated the territory, our culture would have been much different. On the other hand, if the French Revolution had not occurred, we probably would not have had universal human rights. The Second World War would not have happened if Adolf Hitler's ideology had not been heard and followed. Without the Cold War, humans would not have landed on the moon on 1969. Nowadays, new technologies have domain over our daily lives, such as internet and AI. Globalization has led society to a more accelerated scientific um, advancements, evolving our reality as a whole in a very fast-paced way. Um, from a personal point of view, I wish I had time traveling powers in order to comprehend human evolution better and be able to experience history as a whole. However, I also wish I had invested more time developing expertise on human behavior to understand the thoughts behind those decisions that have shaped the world we live in. Were all those regrets avoidable? Well, definitely not, because even though we all have several wishes and regrets, history isn't changeable. We can't change what has already happened uh, in the past. So the best we can do is learn from our past mistakes. That's what regrets are for. To think about everything we did wrong in the past and try to correct it in the future. Try to make things better. Uh, then, are wishes useful or do they prevent progress? They are actually very useful, in my opinion, because on the contrary, they actually stimulate progress. They let us make progress from different points of view because they let us dream and think on a bigger picture. We need, in order to make progress, we need bigger ideas, we need greater ideas, and that's what wishes are for. That's actually what we need. And then what lessons can be learned? Well, we could say that history has given us multiple lessons through history, and that's what's important actually to learn from them. We through history we can learn about human rights, about which things are more valuable than others. That's actually what we need to learn.
Now we will explore environmental decisions, a topic deeply connected to wishes and regrets. Why regrets? Because many of the environmental problems we face today, such as climate change, deforestation, plastic pollution, are the result of past choices. And why wishes? Because even today we can act about this crisis and reduce the negative consequences that may occur in the future. But what went wrong? For decades, government, industries, and societies prioritized economic growth over environmental protection. Fossil fuels were heavily used, forests were cleared, and pollution increased. So now these stats come to our minds. If stronger environmental policies had been implemented earlier, we could have reduced global warming. If companies had invested in renewable energy sooner, we might have prevented part of today's climate crisis. And what alternative reality could have happened? If countries took climate agreements more seriously today, we could see faster progress. If individuals reduced their consumption of and waste, pollution would decrease. If renewable energy became cheaper and more accessible everywhere, societies would rely less on fossil fuels. Of course, if all this could happen, we could be living in a completely different reality. So this invites us to work within our means to make a change and support practices that reduce our carbon footprint and have a positive impact on the environment through our actions. Were these regrets avoidable? In many ways, yes, because scientists had warned about climate change decades ago. If leaders had listened more carefully, the damage would not have been so severe. However, there were also economic pressures, political interest, and lack of global cooperation. Are wishes useful or do they prevent progress? Wishes can be positive if they inspire change. For example, to think if only we had protected the planet better can motivate action. But if we focus only on regret, we risk becoming passive. If people only complained about the past, they would never act in the present. I mean, if we want a change for us and the next generation, we must do something right now. And finally, what lessons can we learn? First, early action matters. Second, environmental decisions have long term consequences. And third, responsibility is shared. Government, companies, and individuals all play a role. If we learn from past mistakes, we can build a more sustainable future. If we act now, future generations won't have to say if only they had done something.
Hello! Now I'm going to talk about technology in society and its regrets and wishes. But why do we choose this topic? Well, because although technology has made life easier, it has also created deep regrets and strong wishes about the past. For example, many people feel that technology developed too fast. I wish technology didn't control our lives so much. If only people spent less time on their phones, real human connections will be stronger. One major regret is the lack of responsibility in the tech industry. I wish companies cared more about users than about profit. And if only governments were stricter with technology companies, problems like data abuse, misinformation, and online addiction wouldn't be so common. Looking back, some regrets are even more serious. I wish society had thought more carefully before giving so much power to the algorithms. If only personal data had been protected from the beginning, millions of people wouldn't have lost their privacy. But there are also wishes about the present and the future. For example, I wish social media will promote healthier behavior instead of comparison. If only technology will help people feel less lonely, mental health will improve. Many people hope technology will unite society instead of dividing it. Also, if past decisions had been different, the consequences today could also be different. If technology had been developed more ethically, people would be less anxious now. At the same time, if technology were designed to support human well being, society would be more balanced and connected. Are wishes useful or do they prevent progress? Wishes can be useful if they help us reflect and learn. For example, wishing we had protected online privacy earlier can push governments to create better digital laws today. If only companies had been more careful with user data, we can now demand safer platforms and more transparency. However, if people only wish and do nothing, progress stops. Complaining about social media addiction without changing how apps are designed or used will not solve the problem. If only technology companies listened but never act, society will stay stuck with the same issues. Wishes should inspire change, not replace action. Finally, what lessons can be learned? The main lesson is that technology should serve people, not control them. We must think about consequences before developing new innovations. If only we learn from these regrets, future technology will be more ethical, more human, and more responsible. Thank you.